Well, he's been welcomed like a returning hero. To many Pakistanis, that's exactly what Nawaz Sharif is. Lahore's airport was swamped by thousands of his supporters, ecstatic at the deposed Prime Minister's arrival back in the country after 7 years, of course, in exile. Well, his country is still gripped by a state of emergency declared by General Pervez Musharraf, the man who forced him from power in a military coup. Well, Sharif's stated aim to rid Pakistan of dictatorship. Well, let's go over to Hassan Sharif. He joins us now on the line. He's, of course, the son of Nawaz Sharif. Thanks very much for being with us. First of all, I guess the question on the minds of many, will your father's party boycott elections or take part in them?
Well, that's a big decision. And as you are aware, Mr. Sharif's party, PMLN, is a part of an alliance called APDM. And they have given an ultimatum to Musharraf's government for 4 days to lift the emergency, and if not, then they will boycott the elections. I am, however, not a spokesman of APDM, but I think this is the current situation.
But if that ultimatum is not met, at least in your opinion, would there really be any other alternative than boycotting the elections?
Well, I don't think so. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, while the emergency has gripped the country, the judiciary has been suspended, the media has been not allowed to work freely. There is no constitution currently in Pakistan. So under these circumstances, having an election set aside free and transparent, I don't think that would be a good option.
Your father tried to return a few weeks ago and that didn't go very well. Was any sort of deal in any sense cut in order for him to return successfully this time?
Well, actually the live telecast that I just saw, and perhaps millions of people have seen around the world, where Mr. Sharif very categorically told that he had come under no deal. A person who is a national of Pakistan doesn't require a deal by any president or prime minister to come back to his own country and if want to have a go for the elections. So I think there is a very clear and loud message that Mr. Sharif has come without striking any deal with General Musharraf.
Talk to me a little bit about your feelings, your father's feelings, sort of a personal side to this return after 7 years outside the country.
It's a historic moment and we cannot be more happy, and it's a very, I don't know, I'm really lost with words. My father, of course, he's very happy to touch down his home soil, his home country, his hometown. And besides the more personal note that he will be able to, in his first attempt, to go to my grandfather's grave and offer prayers there. And just to remember that he was not allowed to accompany his coffin to Pakistan when he died in Saudi Arabia. So this would be the first time he would be paying his visit to my grandfather's grave.
All right, it's good to get your thoughts and feelings on this. We're going to go over now to Nilufar Bakhtiyar of the Pakistan Muslim League Q. That's the party of President Pervez Musharraf. And Bakhtiyar's on the line from the capital, Islamabad. Thanks so much for being with us. Let me ask you, first of all, some see the return of Nawaz Sharif as something of a threat to the Q faction, your faction of the PML party. How do you respond to that?
I don't feel that way. I think it's a very democratic process that Pakistan is going through right now. Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif deserve to come back to their own soil. After all, they were sons of this soil and they had every right to come back. And I think we are moving towards democracy very fast. It's good to have all the exiled leaders back in the country. What we would like to have now is a free and fair election in the government. And I hope sincerely that the emergency would be removed before the general elections.
I'm sure you may have heard seconds ago the talk was speaking to the son of Nawaz Sharif that if this state of emergency is not lifted in 4 days, boycotting the elections. What is your feeling as the ruling party? What are you telling President Pervez Musharraf about how he should perhaps deal with this situation?
I strongly feel that General Musharraf would allow emergency to be removed. I think it's time for him to make these
within 4 days. Sorry to interrupt you, but is it likely? Do you think
yeah.
that? Are you saying the ruling party would would endorse a lifting of that state of emergency within 4 days, as the opposition are demanding?
There are few people within the ruling party who feel strongly for democracy. And whether we are in this party or that, we are Democrats at heart. And we cannot support any kind of emergency in the country. And especially general elections in the country cannot be held under any kind of military rule. So if we want to have a result which is acceptable to all political parties, we'll have to let go of this emergency rule. And all political prisoners should be freed, and the media should be freed, and all the judges and the judiciary should be reinstated.
Why was Nawaz Sharif allowed back this time?
I think there was a tremendous pressure on the government because Benazir Bhutto had come back, and many people who were neutral, like myself, felt that if one political party was being headed by a person who was also exiled, then the other party should not be denied of their rights. So I'm a neutral person. I belong to PMLQ. But I also think that it was time for Mr. Nawaz Sharif to return. And I'm glad now there's a level playing field for all the political parties in the country. Benazir Bhutto is there, Nawaz Sharif is there. Now it's time for the people of Pakistan to make their own judgment and to decide for the fate of this country.
Well, you described yourself as a neutral person. Many are expecting defections from your wing of the PML to the Nawaz faction of the PML. People who, perhaps like yourself, are very dissatisfied with what the government, with what President Pervez Musharraf is doing.
I think it's a little early to comment on that, but we have to also
But it is a possibility then?
Of course, there can be a possibility, because if there are people who are disgruntled and if their issues are not addressed, then naturally defections can take place. But I also feel that Muslim League Q emerged from Muslim League N. And we have to realize that at one time, people like myself were in Muslim League N. So there are many people who think that the roots are with them. So if both these parties could have seat-to-seat adjustment in the general elections, it would help both the factions of Pakistan Muslim League. I am one of those people who think that both the Muslim Leagues should be unified, and then they should emerge as a united force against Pakistan People's Party.
All right, Bakhtiar Nilufar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, two separate bomb attacks have hit the Iraqi capital in a further blow to the apparent security improvement. 9 people were killed and at least 30 injured when a car exploded close to a hospital complex in the health ministry in Baghdad. And across town, a roadside bomb apparently aimed at a police patrol missed its target and wounded 3 civilians. These bombings come just days after 15 people were killed at a popular family pet market. Well, it's a week since Cyclone Sidr hit Bangladesh, but still thousands of families are living out in the open. Some 2 million people have been left homeless all along the country's battered coastline. Survivors are living in makeshift tents, waiting for relief to arrive. But aid organizations and the army are trying to reach the stranded, but as winter approaches, the situation is getting increasingly desperate. The cyclone left 3,500 people dead and thousands are still missing or injured. For the second time in 2 weeks, demonstrators have clashed with riot police in the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur. This time it was the country's large Indian minority calling for equal rights. Well, Hamish MacDonald reports from the scene of the protest.
The demonstrators gathered in the early morning. Just by being here, they were in open defiance of the authorities. Restraining orders had been issued to deter anyone from turning up. The government had declared this illegal. Still, thousands came to take part in the demonstrations, protesting the colonial policies of Britain. Ethnic Indians wanted to deliver a petition to the British High Commission, but in reality, with warnings defiance would not be tolerated, this became a demonstration against the government. Under the shadow of the Petronas Towers, the symbol of modern Malaysia, thousands were dispersed, the stinging tear gas leaving no option but to move on. The police have just fired tear gas again for the second time in just a couple of minutes.